The time for petitions is expired. Orders of the day.
Ballot item number 16, Order M41, second reading of Bill 41, an act to amend the Places to Grow Act 2005 with respect to the finality of certain municipal planning decisions. Mr. Klees.
Member for Newmarket-Aurora.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I move second reading of Bill 41, an act to amend the Places to Grow Act 2005 with respect to the finality of certain municipal planning decisions.
Mr. Klees has moved second reading of Bill 41, an act to amend the Places to Grow Act 2005 with respect to the finality of certain municipal planning decisions. Pursuant to Standing Order 98, the member has 12 minutes for his presentation.
Thank you, Speaker. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to speak to this bill. I want to take this opportunity to welcome to the legislature councillors from the town of Newmarket, Mr. Chris Emanuel and Jane Twinney. I thank them for their support. I'd also like to express my appreciation to Councillor Jim Tovey and Councillor Pat Mullen, who attended the press conference with me this morning. Also, Ms. Lois McDonnell, who is here representing the Glenway Preservation Association. I want to thank her for being here with us, and a number of residents from the Glenway community in the town of Newmarket. Speaker, in the time that I have, I want to do a couple of things. First, I want to set out very clearly what this bill does. I want to make it very clear what it does not do, and I also want to set into context why I believe this bill is so necessary. Sometimes, Speaker, we don't get it quite right in this place. And when we find that we have passed legislation that has unintended consequences, it is our responsibility as legislators to fix that. And that's what I'm attempting to do with this legislation. And where there are unintended consequences, Speaker, is as a result of a very well-intentioned piece of legislation we know as the Places to Grow Act and its companion legislation, the Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Here is where the problem is. Those pieces of legislation do something very well-intentioned, and that is to prevent urban sprawl. As a result of that, we have provincial legislation that mandates intensification of existing communities. And in fact, all municipalities, and specifically the 25 within the Greater Toronto and Greater Hamilton area, are mandated to meet certain population and intensification targets. And provincial policy requires these municipalities to bring their official plan into conformity with those population and growth targets. And what is happening is that many municipalities have in fact complied. And I'm pleased to say that the town of Newmarket was among the first, if not the first, municipality that brought their official plan into compliance with that provincial legislation. And so all is well, we would think. And here is the problem. Because of the wording of the provincial legislation, which actually states within the legislation that those growth targets are deemed to be the minimum targets. And so the fallout of that, and I believe an unintended consequence of that wording, is that notwithstanding the fact that we have an official plan in place in the town of Newmarket, and notwithstanding the fact that Newmarket is in compliance with those population and intensification targets, we now have a situation where a developer has purchased land in Newmarket, a golf course community, and without conditions, Speaker, which speaks to the issue that I'm addressing here with this proposed amendment. The developer knew full well that because of the wording of the provincial legislation, they could simply move in, put forward an application, which, by the way, includes the insertion of more than 730 housing units into an existing established community, without regard to the impact on those residents, the property values, the quality of life, let alone the impact on the infrastructure in place and the ultimate cost to the municipality for playing catch-up with that infrastructure, knew that he could bring forward that application knowing full well that in all likelihood the municipality would say no, and immediately trigger, as by the way the developer has done just this week, trigger an appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board without even hearing back from the municipality as to what the decision would be.
Wow.
And so we have a situation where the municipality is in full compliance, went through the work of establishing an official plan, is meeting all of the provincial targets, and yet is facing the prospect of an existing established residential community being totally changed in terms of its character, notwithstanding the effect, as I said, on property values, quality of life, and on the local municipality. Speaker, I think that is fundamentally wrong. Look, we have a wonderful province here. And we look around at the various communities, and why do we have them? We have them because people in the development business have made a substantial investment in land, in the process of bringing that land forward for development, and in building communities.
Hear, hear.
And I celebrate our development industry. I celebrate our building industry. We are the province we are because of those two industries, and the largest employers in our province. We have a responsibility as a province to create an environment within which they can succeed, and within which individuals who purchase those homes can enjoy a quality of life and can count on those communities being preserved. Hence the title of my bill, Preserving Existing Communities. I don't believe for 1 minute, Speaker, that the development industry as a whole intends to destroy communities. And as I said to one developer, and by the way, I've had a lot of calls over this past week, Speaker, from people within that industry, friends, perhaps today former friends, I don't know, but very strongly worded calls, largely on the basis of a misunderstanding of what this bill proposes. I want to make it clear, this bill does not take away the right of appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board in 99.9% of circumstances. It does, however, make it very clear that where a municipality has conformed with provincial policy, where an official plan is in place that is designated where the intensification can take place, and where the municipality has determined that the plan that's come forward is not in the best interest of that municipality, and where the lands are zoned as stable residential area and parks and open space, and the decision of the municipality is that the application is not in the best interest of the community, the decision of the municipality will be final, and that may not be appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board. Speaker, I believe that that simply makes good planning sense. And let me say this. There is a process in place in this province that allows for the official plan, in fact mandates that official plans are to be reviewed every 5 years. And I would think that at least for that 5-year period of time, after the municipality has established that official plan, has made all of the infrastructure plans and investments consistent with that plan, that we could all count on that plan to be respected. If a developer wants to come forward and ask for a change or negotiate a change of that official plan, there's a time to do that. And the time to do that is when that plan is opened up, representations can be made to the municipality, and the decision will be there. What is offensive is when that official plan is not respected and the locally elected councils who have made a decision regarding the character of their community is simply overridden by the Ontario Municipal Board, which, by the way, Speaker, you know and I know, are not elected, are not accountable, are appointments by the government with, in many cases, no regard for the character of that local community. Most of them have probably never even seen the community that they're making major decisions about. And so I submit to members here, I believe that it's our responsibility to correct what was an unintended consequence of the Places to Grow Act. Speaker, since tabling this legislation a couple of weeks ago, I have had very strong support from municipalities across the province. The City of Mississauga passed a unanimous resolution in support of the bill. I received a call from Mayor Rob Burton from Oakville saying he would do whatever he can to support this bill, and they, the town of Oakville, passed a unanimous resolution in support of the bill. Chairman Carr from the region of Halton, I spoke with him a couple of days ago. The region of Halton passed a unanimous resolution just yesterday endorsing this bill. We have a number of municipalities from across the province who have expressed that kind of support. No one is attacking, Speaker, the building industry, the development industry. No one is calling into question the intention of anyone. What this bill is simply doing is saying, let's respect the planning process that's in place in this province. Let's honor the people who make the single largest investment that they will ever make in their lives, namely their homes, so that when they put that money down and move into that home, they have some sense that they can count on the character of that community to be there in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. And if, in fact, intensification is to take place, surely we would support that that intensification takes place in consultation with the duly elected councils of that municipality, and that at the end of the day, through that planning process, we build strong communities. And so the title of this bill, the short title, is Preserving Existing Communities. Speaker, this is not an issue that we can ignore. If this House does not act, we will continue to allow tension within an industry where there shouldn't be any. I think by fixing this, we will actually be supporting the development industry as it seeks to continue to build strong communities in our province. And I would appeal to every member here to support this bill today. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Further debate, the member for Trinity Spadina.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And I have tremendous sympathy for the intent of the bill and the intent as articulated by the member of Newmarket-Aurora in his desire to try to control the powers of the Ontario Municipal Board. And originally I thought I might support it as a way of just getting it to a legislative committee and have people come and speak to it and the positives and negatives of the bill. But I want to speak to the serious limitations of the bill for a moment. And I want to speak generally about the Ontario Municipal Board. Most people don't know what the Ontario Municipal Board is. And it was created in 1906 uniquely in Ontario. No other province in Canada has an Ontario Municipal Board with such powers. No other power in North America, including America, has the powers that the OMB has, except possibly one state. And the powers that the Ontario Municipal Board have to override municipal governments and to override, on many occasions, the decisions made by the planning department are extreme and, in my view, excessive. They have the power to change official plans. They have the power to change zoning bylaws. They have the power to deal and change zoning bylaw amendments. They have the power to, in effect, establish land use planning. They have incredible power that, in my view, they should not have. They are not an elected body, and they are unaccountable. And in my view, for one individual at the OMB or three individuals to make a decision where they can start from scratch, as they say, de novo in Latin, where the city may have done that for a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10, but this body can re-begin a process from scratch, I believe undermines the work of cities and undermines the work of city planners. This government attempted in 2006, through Bill 51, to, in their mind, limit the powers of the Ontario Municipal Board. And the fact of the matter is they did very little. And court decisions have said they have but only limited, deferential kind of respect for municipalities. Limited, deferential respect. And all they have to do is simply have regard to whatever a municipality has decided by way of its official plans or planning, land use planning work. That is all they have to do. Having regard to official plans means absolutely nothing, because an adjudicator at the OMB can simply rewrite the whole thing, undo it, amend it, change it in any way he or she wants at the OMB. So Bill 51, passed 6 or 7 years ago, has absolutely given very little to municipalities by way of powers. So we're still at the beginning in terms of what we need to do to change the OMB. I introduced a bill 3 weeks ago that would allow the City of Toronto to be free of the OMB. And I wanted to start with the City of Toronto because they have their own act. Indeed. They have a $10 billion budget, and they're bigger than most provinces in Canada. They are a big city, a big economic power in the city, in the province of Ontario, and the rest of Canada, with a big planning department. And they spend thousands of hours defending their decisions at the OMB, instead of spending those limited hours they've got to talk about how they're going to plan land use in the City of Toronto. It's just simply wrong. And they're so demoralized in the City of Toronto and understaffed of late that they are not able to do the double job of minding the business here at the City of Toronto and then having to defend themselves at the OMB. It's absolutely wrong. It was my attempt to say to some of the disgruntled Liberal members that, look, if you want me to include Mississauga, and I will refer to them in a moment or two, come on in. You can join us. Because I actually believe that if a city wants to opt out, they ought to be able to do it. That's the argument I put forth. And I also argued that it is not inconsistent for the government to continue to change the Ontario Municipal Board, and by that I mean limiting its powers so that they can continue to have respect for the decisions the cities make. They are not inconsistent. My Bill 20 can proceed, other municipalities can join in, and if the government doesn't want to do that, God bless. Change the OMB and limit their powers so you can respect municipalities. Either of the two can be done in tandem. They're not inconsistent. So I'm arguing we need to change the OMB, absolutely. But they can also respect my bill and respect Toronto. It's all about respect. The Conservatives love to talk about that as well. That's why a couple of them supported my bill a couple of weeks ago. So that was good. Thank you. But the problem I have with the bill that the member brings forth from Newmarket-Aurora is that it is limited in scope. It says that, you know, I understand, member from Durham, I understand what you're saying. It says that the decision is to refuse a request to amend the municipality's official plan with respect to land that is designated as one or both of the following: stable residential area, parks, and open space. I think that's okay. But as I read in the Newmarket official plans, they include, in addition to residential areas, urban centres, commercial, business parks, major institutional areas, and natural heritage system that are excluded from this particular bill that could have, maybe should have been added, but they're not. And so we only are limited to two areas, and that is stable residential area and parks and open space. That is all. And I understand why, some of the folks are here, because they want to be able to defend themselves from a potential development where this golf course is right next to this residential community, and if they build there, that would infringe, I'm assuming, on some of the effect it would have on the surrounding community. I appreciate it. I understand that. The bill says, however, in the next page, that subsection 2, 3, and 6 apply if the municipality can demonstrate it is achieving the applicable population growth and intensification targets determined under the plan. So what this bill says is that it has to meet that standard. And if it doesn't, these two items are appealable still to the OMB, which leaves you somewhat vulnerable, assuming that municipalities can establish a process to determine what that growth is and are they meeting the growth objectives. So you're still subject to an appeal. And everything else is also subject to an appeal. So things that I mentioned in my debate around Bill 20, in Kitchener-Waterloo, the city and the planners together over a 10-year period said, we don't want urban sprawl. It took them 10 years. The developer said, we don't like your plan. We like urban sprawl. God bless them. And believe it or not, the OMB ruled in favor of the developer because they liked their plan better than the cities combined with urban planners. You gotta tell, I'm assuming you agree with me, something is wrong with that. Not only was Kitchener-Waterloo containing urban sprawl, and not only did the city and urban planners agree, but the OMB overruled them. It's tremendous power that the OMB has to object to, deny, override, overrule a city, and that is fundamentally wrong. Those decisions will still apply. Other decisions, such as if a developer wishes to build a high-rise where the official plan calls for lower heights, that would be appealed. Those still proceed. And there are a number of other decisions for which I do not have time to speak of, but my point is that the bill is limited in its scope in terms of how it attacks the problem of the Ontario Municipal Board and how it doesn't protect the city from other elements of growth that you will be subjected to in Newmarket. And so I know some of the City Council of Mississauga were here, but the Mississauga resolution seeks to amend legislation such that, and I quote, there is no appeal in respect of the official plan policies of a municipality or planning board adopted to conform to the growth management, population intensification and employment targets and policies as set out in the provincial growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe area and related regulations and provincial policies, end of quote. That is very different than what is being proposed here. And my sense is that Mississauga councils think that the bill might be doing a little more than what they think it ought to be doing, but it doesn't. And so I speak in favor of the sentiment what you're trying to do, but it is incredibly limited in terms of its scope. It does not attack the powers of the OMB that it should in a way that will reform it so that all communities in Ontario are protected, which is what we need to do. And if we give the City of Newmarket the power to be able to say, no, we're opting out, we don't want to, have the OMB override us. That's the kind of powers they would want, and that's what we should be fighting for, because that's the real reform that we need in this province.
Thank you. Further debate, the member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Thank you, thank you. I wish the members that have been here, I'm trying to remember, yeah, it was 2001. I remember I proposed a bill like this. It was a revolutionary bill. I said, let's abolish the NDP, no. Let's abolish, yay, okay, I agreed. Unanimous consent. There I was, 2001. I said, here's the bill to abolish the Ontario Municipal Board. Did I get any support from the NDP? No. From the Conservatives? Oh, God, it's like abolishing the Vatican. They said, you can't touch that. Anyways, I have a bit of history on the OMB and this issue, and I really commend the member for Newmarket-Aurora for bringing this forward, because it's a real life issue in many communities, and not only in his community, but right across the whole province, because we do have growth issues. I represent an area, you want to see the OMB at work? Drive up to Yonge and Eglinton. You can't even find a piece of grass to walk your dog anymore. Because somehow, despite the OMB and despite City Council's official plan, it's just basically condominiums everywhere. And there's another about 300 already on the go. And City Council always says, oh, it's not our fault, it's the OMB's fault. Meanwhile, there goes up another building. There goes another building. Then City Council says, oh, we've got Section 37. Oh, we like Section 37. You know, the member from Thornhill knows about Section 37. So what they do is they use the OMB as this bad guy, and not to say they're good, but they say it's the OMB's fault. Meanwhile, City of Toronto has all the Section 37 stuff going on, buildings up everywhere. We've got more cranes in the sky, you know, the big construction cranes, more in Toronto than all of North America combined. Come to Eglinton Lawrence. I think I got a few more now than you. Anyways, more cranes in the sky than all of North America, including Mexico City, more of them in the GTA than all of North America combined. You take New York, forget it, they got 30 or something. Mexico City's got about 20. So, and then I talk to developers that come and see me. Your government's not helping us. Your government's allowing too many appeals, and we can't get our work done. We can't make any money. And I say, for God's sake, how much money do you guys want before you're happy? How many more condos will make you happy? How many more 100 cranes do you want before you developers are happy? God love you. We love the developers. We love the people in construction. But for God's sake, stop once and say, hey, we're not doing too bad. Never. You're never going to hear from developers, oh, Ontario's not bad, Toronto's not bad. They're always saying, we need more. Cut the red tape, as the Tories say all the time. Cut the red tape and we will build more condos wall to wall. Anyways, I just think in this bill here, getting back to this bill, there's some very fascinating comments made, and they're very valuable, really. There is an issue that has to be dealt with. I just tell my friend from Newmarket, I think what we really need to do here is get the best and the brightest around a small table and look at your issue, look at what the member from Trinity Spadina has talked about opting out, look at what I've been saying for the last too many years, and see if we could come up with something that is comprehensive, because we all know we need the growth. It's just growth that is manageable and sustainable. We need the jobs, we need the services, but we also need appropriate infrastructure. Because if you look at Highway 7, and the member from Highway 7 isn't here, but if you look at Highway 7, God love Highway 7. There's so many wonderful subdivisions, wall-to-wall subdivisions, from all the way from Uxbridge to King City and beyond. Anyways, everything's been built up there. Yet they got Highway 7. It's wall-to-wall trucks, 24 hours a day. You can't breathe on Highway 7. There's no transit on Highway 7. So God forbid they had a plan and said, listen, as you're building all your subdivisions and you developers are making your money, why don't you put a bit of money aside to maybe build a subway underneath Highway 7? Maybe as all these people were coming to the Highway 7 corridor, they could have built a subway, a kilometer every 2 years, and said, God, we can breathe and walk on Highway 7 rather than making it a truck thoroughfare. That's why you need a provincial plan. That's what I'm trying to point to you, is that you can't have one municipality opt in and out, because what happens is they play against each other. So the developer will say, well, I can't get it in Newmarket, I'm going to go to Aurora. I can't go to Aurora, I go to Uxbridge. So that's why you need if you do the opting out thing, my colleague from the municipality, you've got a bit of an issue because they'll play hopscotch, they'll play one municipality against another. So that's why I'm saying we need a comprehensive, a real approach to this, where we can manage growth, because I think we've done a reasonable job considering the pressures we've had, that there are beautiful communities still. No better place to live in Aurora, Newmarket, Uxbridge, Snowballs Corners. These are one of Thornhill, beautiful places to live, but we haven't done a very good job of providing the proper services, which I mean is the proper roads, the proper sewers, the proper transit. All these things could have been done better, because there could have been money and planning in advance rather than after the fact, when you know who benefits? It's all the OMB planning lawyers. They make I used to call the OMB the annuity plan for planners and lawyers. That was their retirement plan. They just went to the OMB and, God, oh yeah, it's the city versus the community versus the... So the people who won were the lawyers, the planning lawyers. They call themselves environmental lawyers now, by the way. They don't call themselves, development lawyers. So that's who wins in all this, because there is too much confrontation, litigation. There isn't a real opportunity to have a proper citizen review of the applications, a proper citizen review of the application. Because what happens is, right now, if you do take away the OMB, which, as I said, you can do it, and you should do it, you have to put a proper review panel in place. If you look at Oregon, they've been doing this for the last 20 years. It works very well there. But if you do just straight off abolish the OMB, and if you then just have them go to divisional court, wow, the lawyers are going to be, oh, Maron, this is going to be fantastic if they go to divisional court, and they'll be in court, and then the big guys will win. The cities will waste all kinds of money fighting in the courts. If you think the OMB is expensive, take these to the courts. And if you appeal every decision to our court system, talk about delays and lack of... Anyways, my time is up. My good friend from Ottawa, which I can talk about Ottawa, is planning mistakes in a few minutes. But anyways, thank you for listening.
Thank you. For the debate, the member for Thornhill.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And Speaker, I think it's safe to say that in this House, there is no member, probably never has been a member, who represents a riding within the urban boundary that hasn't gotten into the fray in some kind of a dispute that involved what citizens want versus what the cities they live in want versus what their own planners want versus what developers want. And I think what this bill is informed by is that kind of a dispute in my colleague from Newmarket-Aurora's riding. And as I say, we've all experienced it. So what we have is a triangle. And that triangle, I would like to think, puts citizens on the top, and on the bottom two corners you put the cities and their planning departments and the developers. Do you know, Speaker, they're all people who I think are well-intentioned. Citizens want to live in a community that they thought they bought into at some given point in their lives, making an expenditure that is not even arguably the most significant expenditure of most people's lives. So they want to preserve its character. Cities want to create places that people want to live in. They want to collect taxes on a regular basis. They want to have nice parkland and keep their roads maintained and provide clean water. And developers, who sometimes are very maligned, as my colleague from Newmarket-Aurora has said, are just people who are in business, and that business is, relatively speaking, a decent business. They build places for people to live. They build backyards for kids to run around in. They build parkland because oftentimes Cities where they build demand that they do that, and oftentimes they do it anyway. So our issue here in dealing with places to grow, or any other act that pertains to how our municipalities function, really are within our purview to address on the basis that this triangle remains in balance. So my colleague from Newmarket-Aurora has mentioned a lot of the rationale behind Bill 41, which has been prompted by a particular issue that he has dealt with in his writing, but one that, as I've said, has been paralleled and will continue to be paralleled in writings all over this great province. The bill is really about giving some kind of power, and I'll just say some additional power, within the current provincial guidelines to municipalities. And we could really, Speaker, have quite a lengthy discussion of those guidelines, but for today, let's be very specific. The bill sets out 3 conditions where local municipal plans would trump the Ontario Municipal Board, the OMB. 1, the municipality has an official plan in accordance with provincial intensification policies. 2, the targets for density as outlined in the provincial growth plan are achieved. And 3, when the local council has not requested any density redistribution from what's already been allocated. Local residents know their communities well, but on a different level than a centralized body. That's why my friend from Newmarket-Aurora has people here today, because they have a vital interest in what's going on adjacent to the golf course. No MPP has ever escaped the ire of citizens who feel strongly about some aspect of a proposed development, certainly not within the urban boundary. I myself represent 2 major cities in the province of Ontario, because Thornhill straddles Vaughan and Markham. These are indeed places to grow, and they're growing like Topsy, and they are subject to intensification. And that intensification is always being questioned by any element of it, whether that be the citizenry, the planners, or certainly the developers. So we're in these disputes on a constant basis. This bill does not override the OMB, but it does give more autonomy to local communities, and that's really what it purports to do and what it should do. It would prevent planning decisions from being a Queen's Park and bureaucracy solution. It contemplates input and local opinion in changing the face of communities. How our communities will look in the future is a pertinent issue to all of us as our population does continue to grow. Think about it, Speaker. We're talking about 8.5 million people in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area by about 2025. 2025? That's spitting distance from here. That's 12 years away. Growth in the GTHA, as it's called, is projected to be amongst the fastest growing regions in the province, indeed in the country. The GTHA's share of Ontario's overall population is projected to rise from 47% right now, actually 2011, to 52% by 2036. Significant growth must be growth within guidelines, must be controlled growth. That's a significant increase that requires comprehensive long-term planning for the overall livability of a community that takes future growth into account. As I represent my constituents from Thornhill, I do know firsthand about a rapidly evolving community. Population projections from the province of Ontario indicate that York Region's population will rise 1.5 million people, and the number of jobs will increase to 780,000 by 2031. Again, not very far into the future. The city of Vaughan, one of the fastest growing municipalities in all of Canada. Our community has gone through many changes over the past decade, and it will continue to undergo considerable transformation. Municipal planning is a very complex issue that encompasses taking every aspect of day-to-day life, from roads and infrastructure to transit and parks, green space to garbage collection, into account to have a neighbourhood that thrives economically and socially. People need a larger say. Exactly what that looks like differs for each particular community, and with this bill, the OMB could not overrule the official plans and zoning bylaws established by municipalities, so long as the municipalities are in compliance with all of the provincial intensification policies. That, and basically, I hope I've summarized it well, is what my friend wants to do with his bill, and that's why I'm happy to support it. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Further debate? The Minister of Infrastructure and Transportation.
And Mr. Speaker, the way we pay for infrastructure and transportation is with development. I just want to make I want to make a few comments. I don't have very much time. We're looking at a major review right now of the Places to Grow Act, which is well underway. And we've set this up as if the interests of people who build things and the people who live in those neighborhoods are inherently at conflict. And I was supportive of the member for Trinity-Spadina bill and continue to work with him and others. When I meet with residents groups and when I've met with the home builders, we have conversations, and I keep on saying to them, you know, I actually was a mayor of a city in a different jurisdiction that had no OMB. It's easy to be opposed to the OMB. What are you going to do if there isn't an OMB? What does that look like? And you know, I ask people, I say, go look at Alberta's system. Look at Manitoba's system. Look at BC's system. And I said to the development community, have you had a look at that? Does it make sense to you? There's all kinds of better ways to do this, because my residents don't like giving up their Sundays from their gardening and their families to plan strategies to protect their neighborhoods. And most of the developers and business investors I know really don't like to spend all the money they have to on lawyers and panelists that. And I remember when I left my career in civic politics, Mr. Speaker, the headline in the paper about the day before I left were "The cranes are back," because I was a mayor of a city who hadn't seen any development. And it has been freeloading attacks on the development community here that you probably wouldn't do if you didn't have them. Because right now, outside the doors of this building and across this region, and unfortunately yet not across enough of Ontario, some of the most safest houses, beautiful neighborhoods, and most spectacular architecture is being built by an industry that is one of their most remarkable. We have the most competent construction trades and trade unions. If you look at the inquiries in Quebec, we have one of the most honest and professional development industries, quite frankly, right now in the world. I have 47 condo towers going up in my constituency, and the quality and beauty of them is really quite extraordinary. If you look at the preservation of the distillery district that is being led by the private sector, it is truly remarkable, and you see a commitment from developers. Plus, they pay Section 37 money. Plus, they pay park development fees. Do you know the City of Toronto hasn't finished its official plan? Do you know how much park they've set aside for the city for all of this new tax revenue they're getting? Zero. Do you know how many hundreds of millions of dollars developers have paid in Section 37 and park money for a park out there? Kristen Wong-Tam, my city councillor, and I have had a campaign for 3 years to get the city to buy a piece of land, set a piece of land aside. God bless, as my friend says from Trinity-Spadina, please just zone a piece of land for park space. We can't get it. So where's the problem there? I go out to some of the 905 communities, and quite frankly, we have some challenges with municipalities that aren't doing intensification. There's a little irony here that we have a developer who's actually trying to do intensification, and we have politicians on the supposed right that are blocking that. No one likes intensification until they get it. I remember my friend Ann Johnson running in support of the development of high-rise buildings at Eglinton and Yonge. That's right. She ran in support of them and said, if you're not going to put big towers here, where are you going to put them? And she lost. There's a lesson there. Maybe we need to deal with the political problems here.
Further debate? The member for Nipissing.
Thank you for recognizing me this afternoon, Speaker, and I look forward to the opportunity to speak in favour of the member from Newmarket-Aurora's bill. We've heard a few words here today, intensification, density. We've heard a little bit of talk, Speaker, about the growth plan for Greater Golden Horseshoe. And what we understand in Southern Ontario, Speaker, is that your job here with this Greater Golden Horseshoe Plan is to restrain growth. I'm going to take a few minutes, Speaker, to talk about this bill and what it means in Northern Ontario, because we have a Northern growth plan which is an absolute disaster, I may say, Speaker, one that doesn't even mention our Ontario Northland. But the whole purpose of a growth plan in the north is to ignite growth. So while we have a plan in the south that's restraining. We have a plan in the north that we want to see that ignites growth. I want to read something that the member from Newmarket-Aurora said in the press conference. He asked, why is this legislation necessary? My favorite line was his next one, when he said, well, from time to time, we don't quite get it right here. And by here, of course, he's talking about in Queen's Park. Then he added, legislation can have unintended consequences. And when those unintended consequences become evident, we have a responsibility to amend that legislation to ensure the public interest is protected. So, Speaker, I wanted to talk to you about this bill and a similar bill, or a related bill, that was passed, and exactly what he's referring to, what the member from Newmarket-Aurora is referring to, about not quite getting it right at Queen's Park and unintended consequences when it comes to planning and development in my area, Northern Ontario. So I can tell you, as a sitting mayor of the city of North Bay for 2 terms, the surprise, the shock, when a planning bill crossed my desk that was passed, and at the time it was called Bill 26. Ironically, Speaker, it was named the Strong Communities Act. Now, this bill, designed by men and women in Southern Ontario, spilled over into Northern Ontario and was anything but a Strong Communities Act. And that's why I support what the member from Newmarket-Aurora is. We need to have the local municipality be the body that speaks for the North. So let me tell you what that Strong Communities Act referred to. In Southern Ontario, you cannot build on any provincially significant wetland, and I concur with that, Speaker. I think that's an important environmental and ecological advance. Now, in Northern Ontario, we only have wetland and rock outcroppings. I mean, really, that is what we build on. So our industrial parks are very expensive, Speaker. They're either built on rock, which means we have a lot of blasting, or they're built on wetlands, which means we have a lot of filling in to do. And that's what we do. In the north, you are allowed to fill in a wetland if you create a new wetland of equal size. That's a law, that's a rule that we've had in Northern Ontario for decades. And I can tell you, as mayor of North Bay, when I sold a piece of property to Home Depot in a wetland area, they filled it in. We built the most spectacular 5-acre wetland adjacent to a 100-acre wetland, Speaker, and we built boardwalks, signage. It's a gorgeous place for families to go. We wouldn't have had the money to do that. This new Bill 26 came in and said you can no longer fill in a wetland in Northern Ontario and build a new park. You must conform to the rules of Southern Ontario. So, Speaker, here we are. We had just finished an industrial park, tens upon tens of millions of dollars, streets paved, hydro lines put in, utility poles put in, telephone put in, high-speed internet put in, fire hydrants, a beautiful plan that was designed locally, approved locally, met our official plan locally. All of that is zoned locally and ready to go. And this rule that somebody down here in Queen's Park made up, on the Liberal government I might add, imposed this thinking, this Southern Ontario thinking, up at home. We had to shut down the industrial park. You can drive through it today. You can just drive through it. It is the most expensive wetland you could possibly have with high-speed internet, and now they're building a brand new industrial park up on the airport escarpment in North Bay on another several hundred acres of land that need to be see tens upon tens of millions of dollars. So I fully support this local approval, this local respect. You know, I believe our party has respect for local government, Speaker. We know that who knows best about what to do in your own municipality is the local government that we duly elect there. I thank the member for bringing this important bill forward.
Thank you. The member for Newmarket-Aurora, you have 2 minutes for reply.
Well, Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues for their contribution to this debate. I am somewhat perplexed, I must admit, by some of the things that I've heard. I find it difficult to comprehend the comments that my friend, Mr. Marchese, made today, because I heard him stand very passionately to speak about how he believes the OMB should be absolutely eliminated in favor of giving authority to the City of Toronto. And yet, he equivocates his ability to support what I'm saying, which is precisely what the honourable member has said, albeit narrow in scope, yes. The bill was intentionally designed to be narrow in scope. I believe in this place, and we've been talking for years about the need to comprehensively reform the OMB. What I've learned about this place is that it's better to make incremental changes sometime, but at least to achieve that incremental change rather than wait another decade or 2 decades before anything happens. And so I find it difficult. I hear the members opposite talk about their dissatisfaction with the OMB. On Mr. Sousa's website, if anyone cares to go and look there, it talks about the Minister of Finance as a member from Mississauga. Great dissatisfaction with the OMB. Speaker, I'll be very interested to see how the vote goes, and I'm going to make one last appeal to every member here. Take the opportunity. Let's make this incremental step. Let's give local authority where it is needed and deserved. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. We'll take the vote at the end of regular business. Orders of the day.
Ballot.
An act to amend the Places to Grow Act 2005. Is it the pleasure of the House that the motion carry? Carry. I hear that all those in favor of the motion will please say aye. Aye. All those opposed to the motion, please say nay. Nay. In my opinion, the ayes have it. I declare the motion carried. Do we have to read it and I ask where it's going? Okay. Mr. Klees. Let me finish. Mr. Klees.
I'm so excited. I forgot.
What the hell?
I'd like to refer the bill to the Standing Committee on General Government.
Point of order. Point of order.
There were 5 standing.
I count 4. Point of order, the member for Timmins James Bay.
The vote was called. You called it on the ayes, and there was 5 or more members who stood. Mr. Cole was standing as well.
Challenging the Speaker.
Mr. Klees, was it general government? The member speaker. The member has requested the bill be referred to general government. Agreed? Agreed.
Are the NDP in agreement this time?
Mr.